So I just had my first week of school. I gotta tell you, going back to school and trying to rewire my brain on how to retain information and even just to remember to do like basic reading and homework assignments, y'all. But we also did an acting exercise today, and of course that just made me in a mood, and I was already in a mood because my biochemical brain was just like, let's make me depressed today. That, and also it was rainy as hell. I forgot that I made a mention in my previous video that I don't really like theater anymore, which is very weird for me to say because I'm getting my master's in theater directing. What? Specifically, I'm not that much of a fan of musical theater anymore. It's been kind of bubbling up in me a little bit because there is one person in my cohort. Their goal is Broadway or bust, which is great. Good for them, but I can't help but be like, sure, Jan, and just think about the things that led me to where I am right now, which is going back to school. So I'm going to talk about why I have issues with musical theater. I don't have an issue with musical theater in terms of like I don't have any issue with that, with like the collaboration, the art form itself. It's the business side of it, because at the end of the day, it's a business. It's an industry. Also, since I just had a really rough day today, I just want to give myself like a bit of a spa treatment tonight. And so I am going to color my hair with a hair mask, Overtone. I know some people have had not so great experiences with it. I don't mind it. It definitely doesn't give the pop that I really thought I would need. I think I need it in a darker shade. But oh my god, my hair feels so good afterwards. It makes you feel like your hair is like an extension of your memory foam pillow. It's so soft. So I'm gonna do my hair while I talk to you about musical theater. So the first topic that I really have is that it is competitive and therefore extremely toxic. It is such a saturated business. I personally would like to give a special thanks to the TV show Glee, because I really do feel like, and I've had conversations with people about this too, that once Glee became a huge thing, and this was also around the time of like Spring Awakening, realness and everything, and like teenagers were being considered for Broadway shows and whatnot, all that crap. I feel like after Glee there was just like a huge surge in musical theater fandom and inspiration, and everyone wanted to be the next Rachel Berry, you know, live their dreams. And hey, you know what? That's great. Good for you. You go, Glen Coco. But it makes this business all the more difficult to be in, because the more people that are in it, the less amount of time that you get in the room at auditions. I remember like my friends that I first started to make after undergrad, when I was doing regional work, they would tell me about how like back in like the early 2000s when they were auditioning, like casting directors would take their time in the room and like ask more things from your book, and you know, and actually like get to learn about you as a person in the room. And this was at like general calls. So unfortunately that's like one thing that is just like something that's completely missing from this, because it's so saturated. Like casting directors can only see so many people. I remember taking a masterclass with the resident director from Wicked. She was like so shook that she was saying, we are seeing everyone and anyone that we can. And half of the group was like, really? Because we can't even get seen at an open call. I laugh looking back at it, but it definitely was like a bit of an eye-opener for her, I think. I don't know. I could be wrong. The amount of people that casting directors see and resident directors see on the Broadway, when it comes to Broadway productions, they only see like probably 10% of the people who are actually going into these calls, you know? And then of course there's always those rarities of, you know, people getting seen at an open call, and they make their Broadway debut in something. But also, it just turns into a very toxic culture, especially with social media. Like, I literally was chilling in one of the lobbies the other day, and I was hearing other people just bitch about this one girl singing some sort of musical theater song that she posted on her social media, which is already such a brave fucking thing to do. And they were just like criticizing her for no fucking reason. And I had to like fight every urge of my being to be like, you do understand that what you're doing is like so disrespectful and fucked up, and also you don't know who else is here that knows that person, you know? Jesus Christ, people are idiots. And I just feel like some people just get so cocky. They take a musical theater class, or they grow up listening to all the soundtracks and whatnot, and they think that they're like the fucking musical theater genius mastermind that everyone should be listening to. Did I go into that rabbit hole? I sure did. I sure did sink into that. You live and you learn, you know? That's just like a whole other aspect of musical theater. It's just so competitive. And you just immediately make yourself competitive against other people that you don't even know who they are, and they don't even know who you are, but you like stalk them on their Instagram to hate watch them and everything, and it's just absolutely ridiculous. What also feeds into the toxic culture is the fact that we're kind of like starting to go away from this, but not really, but there's like quote unquote types. And when you get stuck in certain types, you also get stuck with like being told that you need to look a certain way. And I got sucked into that. I was told if I want to be considered for the parts that I wanted, which was like Liza Doolittle, Lucille Frank, leading lady types, I needed to lose weight. I felt like no matter size I was always being told that I needed to be thinner. And so surprise, surprise, I have intense body dysmorphia because of that. And I unfortunately have like an ongoing eating disorder. It sucks. I'm sorry, trigger warning, I should have mentioned that. I'm reaping the, not benefits, the opposite of benefits. The unbenefits of it being back in school, because I am using so much more energy and doing so many more things that my body needs more nutrition, and I'm just not used to giving my body that sort of nutrition lately. So my body is like trying to catch up. I've crashed and burned quite a bit within the past week of classes. It's been rough, and so I'm like trying to feed myself more. It's just toxic all around, and I feel like it confines you in a box very easily. It kind of loses its fun very quickly. Like, it's fun in high school when you're the big fish in the little pond, and then you go to college and you turn into a small fish, and then you turn into a big fish, and then you turn into like a fucking guppy, and you get tossed into the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans. And they're like, have fun. We'd say good luck, but it's a lot. It's really not healthy. And it's honestly not surprising to me that so many people kind of not bail, but they just don't pursue it anymore after the first year or two after undergrad. I know quite a few people who are insanely talented, sick-ass singers, sick-ass actors, insane dancers, and they're not doing it anymore because it's a lot. Going to auditions is a lot. When you're non-union, you have to wake up at like 1 in the morning to get in line at Pearl Studios or River Greer or whatever at 2:30 to get on the list of an unofficial open call list, and you just pray to the gods that, you know, the casting people honor it, and sometimes they don't. And so like sometimes waking up that early was completely pointless. All this stuff is like completely different since the pandemic. I personally can't really speak in terms of that since I joined the union pretty quickly after I graduated. And also joining the union doesn't mean that like you're golden, you know? I mean, especially since now they've opened it up for anyone to join, really. But again, being a part of the union doesn't guarantee that you're gonna get work. It also doesn't guarantee that you're gonna get health insurance. All right, now we wait for it to go in. I hope I put in enough. I think I did. But while we wait, I thought I'd
I thought I'd also go into the more detailed aspect of this, is that being a musical theater actor is expensive as fuck when it comes to maintaining your skills. I almost said talents, but I was like, that isn't the right word, it's skills. What do you have to do to maintain those skills? Dance classes, acting classes, and singing classes. So I decided to do a little research. I've never really done the numbers because I knew that it was super expensive already. I know in really like intense undergrad BFA programs, you're in dance class at least 3 times a week. You are taking voice lessons once a week, and you're in acting class either once or twice a week. So here are some numbers that I just put together. Let's start with like the least expensive out of the 3, which is acting. I decided to look at the prices for the Barrow Group. They are rated as #1 in Time Out magazine for the best acting studios in New York City. What they do is that they typically have you audition for their acting the for one session with them for 10 weeks. It's $495, which actually isn't bad. I actually this is a story for another time. There was an acting class that I did stumble upon. They met once a week for 3 weeks, and that was $250. So this is like more bang for your buck. You would end up like buying like 5 packages with them if you want to be in acting class consistently, and so that would come to a total of $2,475. Next up the bat is dance classes. I decided to look online on Steps on Broadway, which is very fabulous. I was going to look at Broadway Dance Center, but I feel like that's like way, I don't know. I know people who really like it. I feel like it's a bit too commercial, and I tried going there once. I got terrified by the teenagers that would just look at me weird, so I feel like I feel like if you are an adult, you will not be judged by teenagers at Steps on Broadway. Their 20 class pass that has a 90-day expiration date is $420. If you want to take class consistently, you would need about 7 packages, and that would come to $2,940. And that's if you're planning to take dance like 2 to 3 times a week. I'll be completely honest, just based on what I've seen within the past couple of years, and based on the people that I've seen getting work on the Broadway, you need strong dance. One of my closest friends, he started taking ballet classes when he was really young. He was able to learn how to partner through that. It's a very high commodity now to find dancers that know how to partner well. If you want to work on Broadway consistently, you need to be a dancer. At least a strong mover. At least. The most expensive out of the 3 though would be voice. So the voice teacher that I had before I became poor, she is the real deal. Her roster of people is pretty impressive. 3 of her students played Christine on Broadway. So when I got recommended to her by my agent, I was like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm gonna sign up for her. One voice lesson was $175. To have a voice lesson once a week would come to $9,100 a year. So in grand total of all 3 of those combined would come to $14,515 a year. Sorry, my battery died. To me, that makes me want to hyperventilate and die. But to some of you, y'all might think, that's nothing. I can get that from a part-time job. Listen, Jan, come over here. Come on. So here's the tea. It's doable, but it's not healthy, it is not stable, and it's not substantial. I don't know where it is for other places, but for New York State, the minimum wage is $15 an hour. Of course, you would probably want to work at least 30 hours per week because you want to be able to go to auditions on the side as well, so you can get said work on said Broadway. Your yearly earnings would come to $23,400. That's taking about 75% of your paycheck to take those voice, dance, and acting classes. And also you have to keep in mind of like, you know, wanting to eat and paying rent and paying $2.90 to go on the flippin' subway. I can't even. It's a lot. It's expensive. And you know who are able to, you know, look at this and be like, okay, that's doable? Rich people. And this is just like the best example to show how elitist and how, God, it's like if you don't have money and you don't have family support to be here, like for example, I live in my grandmother's attic. If I didn't have family here, I would not be able to be here. I would still be in Vermont chilling at probably my dad's house. I know that I come from a place of immense luck and gratitude that my grandmother was super smart when she was 27 and convinced her husband for them to borrow money and buy this brownstone. Me as a millennial, I don't really have those sort of financial opportunities to invest. Staying in my grandmother's attic is the way to go. It's not only money, but it's like the connections you make. Of course, there are always going to be exceptions to the rule. I know so many people who do not have the pleasures of having a grandmother who owns a brownstone in Brooklyn. And I know people who don't have, you know, extremely rich families who are like, yes, we'll fund everything that you want so you can succeed in the career that you so desire. But again, those are like the exceptions to the rules. And also, I do want to make note that if you do make it on the Broadway, that doesn't mean you're going to consistently work on the Broadway. My friend closed Bad Cinderella on a Sunday, and Monday morning he was at a full-time temp job as a receptionist on 9 a.m. the next day. It's just a very cutthroat business, you know? And yes, I know that there are other places to work other than Broadway. Regional theaters are probably the best places to work when it comes to musical theater because you can like stretch your legs and like really create some fun stuff, while with Broadway there's like millions and millions of dollars on the line and you can't really take risks. And if you want to do something crazy or wacky, you have to go through 10 to 15 producers to get the okay to do it. It's a much more complicated business to be on Broadway than it is to create in regional theater. If you're someone who's watching this who wants to work in musical theater, by all means do it up, go for it. It's a lot to put in the work. And I know that you're like, yes, Carol, I know this. All of my teachers have been telling me this since day one, but I still want to do it. I'm just emphasizing that as someone who has been here working full time as a performer and has been through the bizarre ups and downs of this business so far, it's a very big financial investment. It's such a popular business to be in at such a young age that I feel like very few stay in it by the time they're 30. It's just not for everyone. I probably need to get this out of my hair at some point. Y'all, it's purple. Granted, it depends on like where the light is hitting it and everything, but compared to how I did it last time, it actually shows a difference. Like I can actually see the purple in it. So I am very happy to see that this Overtone stuff actually works. To say that this made me so happy is such an understatement because it actually is a great segue for me to go to my third and final point why I'm kind of sick and tired of the musical theater industry, is that it's basically set up to fail anyone with a mental health illness. I believe illness is the correct term. It makes sense in terms of me as someone who lives with anxiety and was diagnosed with a major depressive disorder, and it's even categorized as a disability now when it comes to identifying whether or not if you have a disability when you're applying for work. I want to talk about living with MDD at some point because I want to be as transparent as possible with y'all, and I think living with depression as a theater creative is very common, and I think a lot of people can relate to it. But in relation to working in theater and being labeled as a musical theater actor, I really do believe that the system really screws us over. I am terrified whenever I get a job because I know that there are going to be days where I literally can't control my emotions. The stuff that I deal with, even though it can be triggered by something environmentally or emotionally, there's some days where my brain is just like, you're gonna feel super sad right now and you're going to have thoughts that are really, really painful for you to think about. I just can't help but roll my eyes because we're coming out of a pandemic where I feel like it really opened eyes of a lot more people realizing how much depression and anxiety affect people. My words are like blah, 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 tonight. I apologize. You know, people say to take care of yourself, but I feel like they only say that to your face. I mean, I can't speak for everyone, but like I grew up watching interviews and documentaries of people being like, I went on to play Lori in Oklahoma when I had laryngitis and pneumonia. We're kind of like taught that mentality of the show must go on. I do think that COVID kind of leaned that up a little bit, but I think that only leaned that up in terms of people who are actually physically sick. Like, sick, not sick. Not to say that people with mental illnesses are sick. That's, Emma, you're overthinking it. Calm down. I did 3 contracts in 2022, and whenever I felt like I needed to call out, I was absolutely terrified. It basically kind of got to the point where I would have to contact my ASM crying to like feel like I need to show proof that I'm unhealthy and unstable and can't go on. And there are some times where I feel like I have no choice but to show up, and that's also really frustrating because I feel like I'm making a scene by showing up, because when I'm severely depressed to the point where I'm, trigger warning, I'm having suicidal thoughts, I have to reserve to just me and whoever is my dressing roommate. Like, I really lucked out with the people that I was sharing dressing rooms with last year in 2022. Like, if it wasn't for them and their empathy and their understanding, I don't know how I would have lasted in any of those contracts. It leads to like me being extremely reserved, not talking to anyone, briefly telling my scene partner I'm having a bad day, if I'm able to even say that to them. It just makes me feel like I'm making a scene, because there are moments where like I just can't help but cry because I'm so miserable, and it's really painful. But I feel like I have no choice because I have a job, and if I call out, then people are gonna talk about me behind my back, being like, wow, I can't believe just because she can't get out of bed, she's calling out. That's so weak. I've had friends who told me up front, being like, yeah, I think you're wussing out. And hearing that is like such a stab to the heart. Such a stab to the heart. So I feel like whenever I'm in that moment, I just feel so torn, because it's like, I'm so unhealthy and I'm not okay. And I want to call out, but I immediately think that people are gonna be like, oh my god, is she okay? Oh my god, I can't believe that she called out for such an unexcusable reason. In their eyes, it's an unexcusable reason, but it's like, for me, it's practically life or death. And it's really frustrating, because when those thoughts get into my head and I do make myself go, from what I recall, the amount of times that my dressing room person was asked if I was okay when I was having those moments, I know that it comes from a place of love of them checking in with me, but it's, at the same time, it's really painful, because it was like, all of this could have been avoided, of me feeling like everyone is focusing on me because they can see that I'm not okay and I'm not saying anything, because I can't say anything to like get myself through the stupid 2 to 3 hours of a show that I didn't want to be there because I was already feeling like crap, but I felt like I had no choice. It's frustrating. And oh my god, the happy stigma is so fucking gross. The amount of time, and I know that there are people who don't even realize that they do this, but like, even just saying, it's gonna be okay, our job is fun, we get to do our dream job, isn't this awesome? Like, I should be happy because of that. Yeah, I am so happy. I am so happy. I am so grateful. I am so flipping lucky. And last year was just like such a huge thing for me, because that was the first year that I was able to make an income solely from my artistic work. I didn't need to go on unemployment. I didn't need to get a survival job in between. I was able to live solely on the income that I made being a working actor, and that was so fulfilling to me. But when you wake up and you want to feel okay, but your entire being is saying some of the worst things to you in your most vulnerable moment, and you know that you are not safe to go anywhere outside of your room, and you feel like you have no choice but to suck it up and just go to work and deal with it, because the thought of people possibly being like, ugh, Emma's understudy is going on again, I can't believe it. Like, the thought of letting down anyone in my company is unbearable. But at the same time, being miserable at my job when all I want to do is just not be at all. That's a pain I would never wish anyone to endure. So despite 2022 being such a successful year for me as a creative artist, it was so painful. And it was so scary because I am truly in shock that I am still here. And I am very grateful that I'm still here. But I firmly believe that if I kept working as an actor and doing musicals and maintaining in that workspace, I don't know how long I would have lasted. I mean, the first day that I had orientation for my master's program also happened to be the first day of rehearsals for a Broadway show that I thought I was going to be making my Broadway debut in. And I do firmly believe that if for some reason in the cosmos that did happen for me, and I didn't have the experience of losing that job and healing from the loss of that job and applying for grad school, I don't know where I would be mentally, and to be honest, I don't think I would be in a good place mentally. I probably would have to be on watch. Fuck. Okay, that got really deep, and that was, wow, okay. So yeah, my hair looks great. Oh my god. Sorry, I have to say something humorous to like get myself out of that mindset. God damn. Okay, I need to blow my nose. So with all that being said, your girl's taking a break from the land of musical theater. I do want to clarify, I love musical theater. I will always love musical theater. Musical theater basically got like plugged into my veins the moment I was born. You know, musical theater will always be a huge part of my life. I'm not saying I'm never going to perform in musical theater ever again, or that I'm quitting as an actor. Liza, My Fair Lady will always be my dream role for the rest of my life until I get to play it. But right now I need to take a step back, and I'm really happy that the universe was like, you know what, you need to take that break now, and during that break you're gonna go to grad school. It's helping me a lot. I'm learning so much from my classmates. I'm learning so much about myself. It's also kind of like helping me remind myself what I really want to do, which is really to create a theater company. And after my experience of working as an actor, I want to help break and eliminate the stigma against people who deal with depression. And I want to be a part of the conversation to help break the stigma of actors who do deal with depression and anxiety, and how the fact that they're practically at risk of being labeled as difficult when in reality they're just trying to get through the fucking day and keep their job. We had a meeting with one of the staff members at our school, and someone asked, because the whole program is based on the Stanislavski method, and someone asked, how do you feel about people saying that it's dangerous? The method isn't dangerous, but acting can be very dangerous to people who have psychological problems. And I have a psychological problem, and I want to figure out how to give a safe space to people who also deal with the same things that I do, and people who also, you know, live with BPD or bipolar disorder, and be able to offer a space where people can make live theater and not be criticized or judged by something that is literally something that is completely out of their control sometimes. If I could shift the chemical imbalance in my brain, I totally would. My medication can only do so much, you know? I'm thinking in a fucking positive mindset. Don't get me fucking started with that shit. Yeah, that was a very long-winded way of me telling y'all why I don't really like musical theater right now. But I hope that after I'm done with grad school, I'll be able to help change that. somehow. All right, I need to go and read one of the many plays that I need to read before class tomorrow. I do want to quickly say that if you're someone who wants to go into the industry and pursue musical theater and do musicals and try to get on Broadway, by all means, fucking do it. Don't let my experience try to sway you, okay? Like, this is just me. This is just my 2 cents. This is just coming from my experience. Everyone's experience is completely different. And just because I haven't had that great of an experience so far doesn't mean that you will too. I'll make a little disclosure, but I also just want to clearly state that the theaters that I have worked at, the people that I've worked with so far have been amazing. They've been really wonderful. It's just a lot of things that I learned growing up that have stuck with me, and unfortunately makes me think that other people in my business still think that way, and I know that there are still people who think that way, and some of those people I've worked with on contracts. Some of them have said up to my face that I'm being lazy, when in reality I'm trying to keep myself safe. Thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for listening. To anyone who felt like this resonated with them, sending you love. I'm sending you a hug. You're not alone in feeling like this. I get it. By all means, I emphasize, like, reach out to your primary care doctor, reach out to your therapist, reach out to your psychiatrist, like, get a team behind you so that when you do stumble, you have people there to help catch you. That helps out immensely. May you be happy, healthy, safe, and at ease, and free from harm. And I will see you all in the next one.